Hi, my name is Shatara and I am the marketing manager at Makers Row. Today we have a very special Facebook Live for you guys. We are in the Garment District at Fabric to Finish, and I'm sitting here with Jamie Koff, who's the president and founder of Fabric to Finish. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here.
So before we get started, we want to let you guys know that we're going to be talking about the production process. We're going to be talking about Fabric to Finish, her company. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. She's been in the business for quite some time, right?
Quite some time.
And she is open to answering your questions if you guys have, from anything from getting started all the way to production and selling. So be sure to leave your questions for her and we will answer them as they come in. So before we get into your questions, let's learn a little bit more about Fabric to Finish. So if you can kind of just tell us a little bit about the company, how did it get started?
Sure. Shall I?
You can do it back and forth.
Okay. I want to give them attention. I want to give you attention. Full disclosure, first time Facebook Live outside of the concert at Madison Square Garden. So where did Fabric to Finish come from? Well, it came from quite a few years in the industry. I was a full-time associate at all of the major American designer companies. I was at J. Crew, I was at Tommy for several years, Polo, Jeans. I worked for Sean John, I was at DKNY Kids, Jeans. And 11 years ago, I was working for a company that went belly up, unfortunately. And it was right after coming back from a 2.5-week overseas denim wash and fabric development trip. And so abruptly the company said au revoir, sent us packing, and I said, okay, I think it's time to figure out how to succeed in this industry without being part of, whether it's a corporate shutdown or a divisional downsizing or a retail sector performance issues. And so what I found was that I had a unique skill set that I knew had a home somewhere. Yeah. And after knocking on a couple of doors in large scale companies that were comparable to my alma maters, I actually was not met with such welcome open arms, and I decided that the independent and emerging designer market was an area that was an untouched white space. And as an entrepreneur, I know that that's kind of how you have to dig in and start to assess and create an opportunity, and that's what we did. And 11 years later, Fabric to Finish is still thriving on that same business model.
That's awesome. That's such a great story. It's the first time hearing the story, and I think it's just interesting how that evolution happened from being in corporate to now kind of being the advocate for the little guy,
the
or
newbies.
like the newbies, those just getting started. And we have so many of those on Makers Row, and that's so close to the heart of Makers Row, and just really creating access for them and educating them on the process. So tell us a little bit about the kind of people that you work with here at Fabric to Finish. If I want to start a clothing line, what are like my qualifications? Like, do I have to have any?
Well, you have to have a pulse, and you have to have a bank account. How's that? You know, putting humor aside, you don't need a background in apparel to be able to join apparel. You know, not to suggest that some of our greatest designers didn't need those skills, you know, going back to the notables of Dior and Lacroix and all of those other, you know, luminaries. But most successful brands, as I learned through my American designer experience, was that it was more than just design. And any sector knows that there are many areas of an industry, very many avenues. When I went to go into the fashion industry, I didn't have a background in fashion. Little interesting known fact, I wasn't permitted to go to fashion school. I therefore got my liberal arts degree. I was an English major and an art minor. And I found my way into the fashion industry almost 25 years ago by way of figuring out which avenue of the industry was well suited for me. Production was the avenue that I felt was very compatible with my skill set, my education, my creative, inclinations.
Yeah.
And so going back to your question, most people that enter into the industry who have an idea, that's pretty much all it takes. It's the process that goes into implementing that idea and executing that idea is what we do. Okay. So, having, for example, worked for Tommy Hilfiger for many years, Tommy was a wonderful creative spirit, but he was also a great merchant and a salesman. And so he never flagged himself as, I'm going to sketch this out and my shoulder length and width and neck opening has to be exactly as such. It wasn't such a technical involvement. It was, here's my concept, here's my idea, now breathe on that and chew that up and spill that back to me. And that he created and surrounded himself with those coordinates of all the functions that were necessary to bring it to the next level and to explore the next collection and costing and development. So having learned from that arena, learning from a merchandise and sales driven company versus a design driven company is a very interesting thing to note, because it's really about getting the product right and understanding how it should be developed, how it should be costed, where it should be made, and how to get it to that ultimate customer. And by the way, who is that ultimate customer?
Yeah, and I think you said something really good with the Tommy Hilfiger example, and it just brought the idea of like surrounding yourself by a team of experts and getting that design right, like you said. And I think sometimes people underestimate that getting a design right it involves different perspectives, and it involves different expertise and different levels and stuff like that. So how does your team kind of come alongside a designer that has a great idea so that you guys can help them get that right?
Well, that's a multifaceted question, because it's very hard to answer that in a short way.
Okay.
So, for example, since we tailor our business focus to the independent and emerging market, the people, our perspectives, people who knock on our door, people who find us through Maker's Row, may not necessarily be designers by trade. They might be accountants or stay-at-home moms or engineers or doctors or oral surgeons that have children, and they have this great idea for a Daddy and Me clothing line, but they're doing root canals all day and they don't know from fabric and spec. So we actually create a back office for these people to have their very own design, sourcing, fabric, technical, production development, and production tech departments. So under one roof, we build the process with them. And the process is a very unique and methodical process, starting with the engagement. How on earth do we dig deep into their DNA to figure out really what their ask is? Because, I would say over 75% of the people that come in are asking for one thing but expecting another, because they don't know the parallel universes that exist, and they want us to build something that possibly isn't humanly possible. There's a lot of new and cool ideas that come in. We sign NDAs, so I'm not at the liberty of speaking about them, but we're also trying to engineer the foundation of this idea because it hasn't been done before. So it's not so cut and dry. We've worked with very basic clothing lines, some beautiful children's wear and women's dress shirts that's silk, stretch, CDC, and we have to deal with fit and shrinkage and sponging. But then those are easy per se, meaning they're easy to manage. We're not recreating the wheel. A blouse is a blouse is a blouse, whether you have a special functional placket or special hidden something or other. If you're creating something that's a special identifiable product that's for an accessory or for a pet, for example, or a special garment for post-pregnancy that has certain functionality, it has to be tested and designed and developed in certain places that can handle that technology. So there's a lot of different avenues of people that come in here. So a lot of it's a science project as well as a fashion project. So it's where it overlaps.
Yeah, and it sounds like you hit a huge range of products. Do you guys have any like specializations? Do you work with kind of all products or?
We work with all products.
Okay.
You know, it's, I think, not like any other industries where, you know, the process is the same, okay? Each individual sector is where it differs.
Okay.
So, for example, a jeans designer or a jeans pattern maker or a jeans factory is not going to be appropriate or fit well with a designer who's looking to launch a swimwear line.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we have to be able to appropriate the right talent and functionality in order to come to the table with solutions for the brands.
Yeah.
You know, with regards to what the specialty is, it's not about my background in denim and washing and wet processing, or you know, one of our specialties, frankly, is fabric. I used to run the fabric departments of all of these major companies.
Okay.
So having that said, we really zone in on fabric as the 90% of each garment important function. You're looking at a cost log. It's not just about how much it costs to make it, but if your fabric is $29 a meter at 35 inches, then, you know, you have to scratch your head on that and figure out how you're going to make that work.
Yeah.
But specialty-wise, outside of fabric being a function and obviously having the talent, it's about process management.
Okay.
And that's, I think, really what sets us apart. As many people will know from our profile on Makers Row, we're a consulting company, but we're a production design management company. So I'm not a factory. We don't have needlework here. We don't have pattern makers. We are the team that manages the flow of traffic. We weather the storm. We build a time and action calendar. We create the whole universe to build a successful flow so that the newbie, the stay-at-home mom, the oral surgeon that we just spoke about has a platform to actually function and say, wow, I have my very own oversight. I have people that actually understand the difference between a knit and a woven, and the difference between stretch and non-stretch, and shrinkage, and all of the things that go into performance.
Okay, so I think we got some questions in. I think I'm being signaled for questions.
Yes, I'm going to drink some water.
So just in case you guys don't know or you're just joining us, we are at Fabric to Finish. We're in the Garment District in New York City, and we are taking your questions on the production process, anything that you kind of have questions on. We're here with Jamie Koff, who's the president and founder, and she, like she just said, has over 25 years of experience, so definitely want to take advantage of that. I'm not seeing the questions on my phone, so when they come in, Carl will just let me know. Do we have any? Yeah? Okay.
So Angela Fouth asks, I have designs drawn up for clothing, but I'm wondering how to find fabric that matches my design. Or do I first find the fabric and then design around that?
Ooh, that's a good question, Angela. That is a good question. It's kind of the chicken or the egg, but it depends on what your ultimate product is, because fabric is the skeleton of your product, whether it's a handbag, a scarf, a jean, a sweater. In that case, it comes down to the yarns. Fabric, frankly speaking, is the front end of the critical part. I think having an idea of, say, you know, and I don't know what Angela's product category is, and I don't know if she mentioned that. That would be helpful to know. But I can give a broadband response to that, to say the fabric understanding. We always, in every company that I ever worked for or then ever joined after having left my great growth opportunities, was to set up the fabric as the front end, because it's the start of all the costing. It's the start of the drape. It's the start of the fit. It's the start of the performance. You know, think about it. If you're building a raincoat, you have to be able to support the functionality behind that. So before you find your zippers and your taping and all of your toggles and cords, what's gonna support this body? You know, what the skeleton. So having those strong bones is really the critical part. But you know, we're proficient at that, and so whether people choose to work with us or not, I do want to make sure that you, Angela, and anyone else who's watching identifies very strategically with whoever you're partnering with, or whatever factory that you choose to align yourself with, that you test your fabric, and that you build around that as your first point of the build. I mean, that's the most critical part. And I hope I answered your question. So let us know if there's any more.
Yes. I got access to some questions now. So Veronica asks, Jamie, can you please talk a little about the differences in manufacturing using athleisure, apparel, textiles, and tech?
I'm a little confused on that question.
Okay, no worries.
Okay.
Veronica, give us a little bit more clarity. If you want to put another message right under there.
Yeah, dig a little deeper, and I'm happy to answer.
Okay. All right, so Nicole, let's see. Just started my own line and struggling to get very small batch production done at reasonable prices.
Welcome to the club.
And what was advice on that?
What was her name?
Nicole.
Okay, Nicole. Interesting. Well, 11 years ago when I set this company up, it was to focus on companies and people like you. Having worked in all of the large size design houses that I've worked in, quantities were never an issue. It was an interesting career life to be able to walk into a mill or a factory or a laundry and have carte blanche, because they knew attached to my business card there were potential big size orders, 1,500 yards, 3,000 yards, 100,000 yards, numbers that I didn't really know how they equated. I was just doing my job and doing, negotiating the best prices and finding the best qualities. So it's challenging, and I've spent the past, decade climbing through hoops, jumping through fire pits and swamps, metaphorically speaking, to be able to build supply chain options for people like you to accommodate. And it's hard. Listen, you have to keep in mind, and the factories now, and we've paved the way, so everyone else out there who's trying to do what we're doing, you're welcome. But for those startups, keep in mind what goes into small runs. If you've ever visited a factory, what goes into putting a sewing line together. It's all back to labor. Yeah, and that's really what it is. So it's very hard to negotiate when you have 22 and a half pieces of 12 sizes and 42 colors.
Yeah.
So, the best way to work around that is to find a partner who believes in your product and who's able to accommodate your needs. But you're also going to have to be flexible. So instead of running sizes from 0 to 12, maybe you consider running small, medium, large. Okay. And instead of cutting 25 pieces, you cut maybe 50 pieces of lower size runs, less colors.
So simplify.
Try to accommodate the needs of that particular manufacturer. I think that the give to the get is always that great solution, and there's that fine line, because they know that you're starting somewhere, that you might be starting with a Kickstarter. You might be starting with a couple bucks that you got in your pocket for graduation. You have this great idea, it's one style, you believe in it, and the world needs to know about it. Listen, things happen and they take off, but you have to have that relationship. That's what the foundation of our business is, those relationships. Yeah. So we start to build, and we try to help to carve out better opportunities so that people like this young lady don't have to scratch their head all the time about, how am I going to make 100 pieces times 5 styles when I don't have enough budget, And on the flip side, one last thing on that subject, you also have to be prepared to come into this arena. Okay?
I was going to say that, being knowledgeable.
You have to be prepared mentally, academically, and fiscally. Yes. If you do not have the budget to go have dinner at Danielle Ballou restaurants, you can't go. No. So you're going to eat at more cost-effective places and live a different lifestyle, or put money aside so that you can then ultimately go eat at those fabulous places. So, okay?
Okay. The other thing I was going to say with that is knowing also what goes into these, what they're quoting you on, like if you get that line item kind of quote on how much these are going to cost, it kind of can also be a way to negotiate what you're actually being charged for. And I agree, simplifying. And I think part of it also goes with just knowing your brand. And like, you may be paying a little bit more to produce in America, but you also can probably sell it for a higher price point. If you have any kind of like input on that too. It's not just about creating the one item, but really producing products so that you're building a business and you're building a brand, and just kind of thinking about the bigger picture of it too. You know,
the question, I don't know how she phrased it, but I'd respond another way, and maybe she'll comment. How does she deal with the low minimums? Now, the dealing was it you're you know, and I don't know whether her name was Julia. I forget the name. I'm so sorry. Excuse me. Was it because you couldn't meet 25 pieces, or they were forcing you to put 100 pieces per, or was it that, you know, financially, you know, you couldn't hit the higher minimums? I'm not quite sure, because
she just said small production done at reasonable prices. So it's kind of...
Right. You know, reasonable is a very ambiguous term, unfortunately, and the cost of labor is going up. Minimum wage is going up next year, and that's also backpedaling into the factory chain, you know, the supply chain. We met with a factory yesterday that we're going to be engaging with, and something that they discussed, which I thought was very interesting, was that they actually don't they don't pay their sewers by the piece, they pay them by the hour.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, and that's also a question that some of our listeners can ask, because they stand very firm behind their quality. And so when you really look at the nuts and bolts of it, if someone is being paid per piece, don't you think they're going to move a lot faster to get a whole bunch of pieces done in a day?
For sure.
So what does that equate to? That equates to maybe not top-notch work, maybe not the best finishing and the best sewing.
There's so many elements.
And so when you think about it, and you know, no door should be slammed until you really dissect what each of these, you know, quotations really equates to. So where someone's prices might be a little bit higher because they're charging, their price per piece is a little bit higher because they have hourly wages. I'm sorry, phone was ringing.
I know, it's okay.
The price per hour really slows it down and allows them to engage in actual finishing and focus and get their beautiful work done.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to take we're taking questions. If you guys are just joining us, be sure to leave your questions in the comments. We're at Fabric to Finish with Jamie Koff, and she's answering any question from design all the way up to production. Let's take Chantray's questions, and then we'll start looking at some of the things that they've actually produced here so you guys can see some of their work. Chantray says, do you all help with distribution channels?
We do. Hi, Chantray. We do. You know, the fabric to finish, the word finish has really evolved over the past decade because understanding the needs of each of the brands. And now we're definitely deeper into the whole flow of traffic, even down to PR marketing, style outs for photo shoots, photo shoot management, distribution. Where it is not our specialty, we engage teams of people to help to manage a facet of getting things from door to door. So there's plenty of logistics companies that we work with and that we have access to that we're happy to refer in. You know, our world in here is one big referral bubble. Because we've taken the time to do our due diligence to find the best partners, it's important for us to be able to pass that along to all those who walk in here.
Yeah, that's super important. And we always say, like, once you find a good production partner, it's all about that partnership, and you can definitely get access to a world that you would have never had access to before with that right kind of fit. So let's look at some of the things that you guys produced here. I think we have a children's wear line in front of us.
Absolutely. This is an amazing kids line called Calibeth Kids.
Okay.
And they're actually not based in New York. They're based out of Atlanta.
Oh, cool.
So it's interesting. We do work with a lot of brands that are actually outside of New York. You don't have to be based here. We have plenty of digital opportunities to connect. We have Skype, we have FaceTime, we have FedEx, UPS. But this particular brand of kids wear, she actually is a print designer and had conceptualized a children's line. So it's all original prints. Some of the
with the zippers on the side.
Yeah, it's super cute. This is a beautiful stretch brushback fleece, which was beautiful.
We'll put it closer to the camera.
Yeah. And so in this case, she designed with our support. You know, her prints were her special sauce. I mean, how cute is this? This is actually a unisex kids line, and it's little little Vans.
Okay.
And then this, we did some denim, a little denim, whatever, a union suit or a jumper.
Jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And here's a good example actually of where the buyer wanted one thing, but it ultimately transitioned to another because of how production took over.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular style, we were doing denim chambray bottoms.
Okay.
And there's a pull-on pant, which I didn't pull out. It's in bad shape.
Okay.
But it was designed by our designer with a rib cuff and with a fold-over elastic cuff.
Okay.
The designer didn't want any rib on the garment. So we said, okay, we definitely would challenge that because it's very hard to control leg opening and to get soft elastic, and then you have to have very strong elastic, especially when you're dealing with wash, because what does bleach do? It erodes and it breaks down. So we were concerned about having some really weak elastic in there and having it disintegrate, and also flip and curl. And since you have to sew and serge it into the seam, so ultimately when production came out, we changed very last minute to rib cuff. Because we were not happy with the leg opening and how it was actually not executing and stretching, because in addition to doing all the fit development and the stretch testing and shrinkage testing, when things go into production, things are in a different level. And so all hell breaks loose in production, and you kind of have to pick up some pieces. And so we basically shifted from her salesman sample that had an elastic fold-over cuff to production, which had a die-to-match rib cuff. Some more denim, just some other cute prints, like a clock print again.
Yeah, and I see we also have some knits. So
we do sweaters. Yeah. We do a lot of cable work and a lot of sweaters domestically. There's some great knit downs just to show. The yarn market is a real fun market for us to be in, so they can see some of the products here.
Yeah,
we have some great domestic partners.
So I think we have another question, right?
Fantastic.
Veronica, again, let's see. Veronica, I think she's giving us a little bit more. I think I need to show athleisure examples regarding my questions. I would look forward to getting in touch with Jamie. So what's the best way to get in touch with you? Because she's just going to show you the examples.
Come on down. No, I'm teasing. You can email at info@fabrictofinish.com, and someone will get back to you within 24 to 48 hours. Just be real specific with your request. Give us a contact email, a callback number, and we're happy to entertain opportunities.
Okay. Did you see any more questions come in? Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh. Which one?
So Kid Biker asked...
Kid Biker?
Yeah.
Like that screen name.
I have already developed some of my very own fabric prints for my baby and kids products. So sounds like your company can guide me to take it from my little studio to a manufacturing level. I need to free up my time to design more and less time making garments. How do you charge for consulting services?
Okay, well, first of all, I appreciate that you said something very critical. I need to hand this over so that I can free up my time to design my garments. That is such a beautiful thing, because that's why we're here. Our functionality is only going to work if people understand what their role is in the process. With regards to costing, we're certainly happy to talk to you about that on an individual basis. Our FAQ page on our website really answers a lot of questions with regards to those asks, so I encourage you to go to fabrictofinish.com and check out the FAQs. I also, whoever's watching, I encourage you to go to the blog page, because we've loaded and we're continuing to load a 26 episode series on fabric to finish and what it takes to get from start to finish. And I think it's very informative. They're little 2 to 3 minute clips on each of the processes that we engage in. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, because you know how blogs flow, most recent posts, start at the bottom and look at the genesis so that you can really understand that they're very informative. We've taken the time to answer all those questions and more about what you're asking now, to help then gauge your mind and say, wow, okay, I need them, I don't need them, or even if it's a resource for you, I'm happy to give out information that will lend itself to you and your journey, even if it doesn't involve overlapping with our company. So feel free to reach out to us. We love working on children's wear, and it would be nice to hear from you, Kid Biker.
Yes. We have a lot of, we do get a lot of requests for children's wear, so I'm happy we're like going through that as well, and like the kind of policies and stuff that goes into it. You guys also talked about you having a YouTube channel, right? Do you have a YouTube with the video series? Is it only
We do.
Your blog? Okay.
It's on the blog. I believe we have a YouTube page, but I'm ill-equipped to speak about that because I'm not in charge of that. But the best place to go is the website, because it is all in one click, and you can just find it under the the header blog. So
yeah, and that's awesome, because if you kind of put that legwork in as you guys are thinking about starting this process or transitioning like Kid Biker to handing off some of that work, it's good that you have that knowledge of what you're coming in with and be able to navigate the conversation and stuff like that. So definitely we encourage you to put that legwork in to educate yourself before you meet.
To Kid Biker's point, I feel like there's going to be a real name behind that out there, Michael or Beth. I don't know who you are. Well, you'll present yourself and we'll meet. But what I wanted to say further to that was that you're identifying that you need to free up your time to do other stuff is, anybody who comes in to meet us for an interview or a perspective rundown or our due diligence meeting, where we're clearly interviewing each other, one of the phrase that pays, and I mentioned this to the Makers Row team when they came in earlier, is a successful relationship has to start with you, whoever is out there listening, that you come to that knowledge of what you don't know.
Yeah.
Know what you don't know. And it sounds like a little catch-22.
Yeah.
Perfect example, I know that I am not a lawyer. So I don't write briefs and I don't generate contracts and apply for patents and trademarks. That's not my expertise. It's not my core competency. I hire people to do that, and I trust that they will deliver the goods. So I have realized what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And it's always helpful to that success recipe. Most of you on the flip side also have a day job. And so it's also very hard to juggle. We have a lot of people that come in here that they have an idea and they want to move forward with it, but they have a 9-to-5 job and they can't meet us until after hours, or they can't start sketching or sending me briefs or, discussions. And so we get that. So we free you up to do what pays your rent or pays your mortgage or allows you to go and shop at Whole Foods. And that's our job, is to sustain that and start the process, and to really manage that with you and for you.
Awesome. And thank you guys for attending and watching. Thank you for all your questions. The conversation doesn't have to stop. Feel free to continue to ask questions in the comments. We can answer.
Absolutely.
And then if you guys are ready to kind of start your line, or if you're ready to transition your production, feel free to reach out to the team here at Fabric to Finish, and that's info at
fabrictofinish.com, and all the contact info is on our website, fabrictofinish.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie.
This was a
for having
pleasure.
us.
Thank you for watching, everybody.
All right, we'll catch you guys on the next Facebook Live. Bye.
Bye-bye.